60 people from 22 different states seized the administration building this morning, demanding to speak to Health Secretary Louis Sullivan, who used to head up the Morehouse School of Medicine here. The protesters want to talk to Sullivan about money for home care as an alternative to institutional care. And as Renee Chenault reports, they're prepared to protest indefinitely.
12 hours into their takeover, and these disabled men and women, mostly wheelchair-bound, say they are no ways tired and are prepared to stay put until their demands are met. Their gripe isn't with the university, but with its alumnus and past med school president, Louis Sullivan. As the Secretary of Health and Human Services, they want him to take millions of dollars from nursing homes and instead put it into home care for the disabled.
When you're talking about the cost of what it costs to keep a person in an institution compared to what it would cost for home care attendant, you're talking almost over $600 saving to the federal government. Okay.
The group, which has a history of such takeover tactics, took the university by surprise this morning when they rolled into the administration building. For a time, they were denied access to the elevators, but after managing to hoist themselves up 3 flights of stairs, the school decided not to stand in their way. Officials say they want them off the property, but are not prepared to remove them by force.
Cynthia? Well, Brenda, the school president has shut down its administration building a short time ago. It seems people were having difficulty getting in and out of the building. And once they got inside, they were having a difficult time working. The reason, you can see all around me, dozens of disabled people who are here from 22 different states, from as far away as California. They have come to demonstrate for a redistribution of funds, and they want help from Louis Sullivan. They would like more money so that people can live outside of nursing homes, disabled people that is, so they can live outside on their own with care from attendants. They call themselves Americans Disabled for Attendant Programs. They're demanding that Morehouse officials set up a meeting with Health Secretary Louis Sullivan. They want Sullivan, the former president of the School of Medicine here, to redirect 25% of Medicaid's $17.5 billion budget to programs which provide home care to the disabled.
There's almost 1 million people locked away in nursing homes now, and we're trying to get people out into the community and living in their own homes.
Well, nothing has been accomplished so far, and we're not in a position to leverage any influence with the Department of Health and Human Services. So while we do sympathize with their cause, it's nothing that we can do. We're powerless.
About 75 protesters took over the school president's office and the hallway leading to it. Outside, police guarded the sidelines. Protesters kept some of the students from getting out of this door and from getting into the administration building.
Well, I'd like to know what's going on, what is taking place. That's my thought right there. I do have to talk to one of my advisors. That's my concern.
We requested Dr. Sullivan's participation in a conference, which people travel from all over the United States to come here for, and he refuses to participate.
Just a few minutes ago, a statement was released by Morehouse school officials. They apparently have contacted Dr. Louis Sullivan. He has refused to meet with the protesters under these circumstances, and Dr. Sullivan is suggesting that they go through the proper channels and try to talk with his chief of staff.
In tonight's Health Beat report, we meet a 27-year-old Georgia woman paralyzed from neck down who wants to live in a private home with an attendant. But because of Medicaid's current policies and because she's reached the ceiling for Medicaid benefits, she could be forced to live in a nursing home. 27-year-old Jenny Langley has suffered 2 spinal cord injuries. Her first was when she was 14 years old. She was diving from a tree into a pond near her family's home. She'd broken her neck at the 5th and 6th vertebra, and while she used a wheelchair, she was still very independent. Then a car accident in 1987 changed all that. She swerved to avoid hitting a deer on the road, and her van flipped. Jenny is now capable of living with an attendant in a private home, but she says Medicare wants her to live in a nursing home.
I've been to a nursing home, and it was very depressing. And I would not want to live in one.
Eyewitness News at 5.
Good evening. Wheelchair advocates saying that they have been ignored too long today shut down several buildings in the metro Atlanta area. Now, increasingly, the disabled have become more and more militant in their protests. Now, they say it's necessary if they're to get the attention of the people in charge. Channel 5's Russ Jameson has our story.
Free our people now! Free our people now!
We wouldn't escalate if we didn't have to.
They call themselves ADAPT, Americans Disabled for Attendant Programs Today. They are the wheelchair disabled, and they want access to the world of the walking. Last year, they shut down the Richard Russell Building, protesting the lack of available transportation for those in wheelchairs. For days, the federal building was brought to a halt by their activities. For 20 hours, they occupied Morehouse administration offices, tying up the school and demanding their help in contacting a former graduate, Dr. Lewis Sullivan, the head of Health and Human Services.
So we figure he's got very strong ties to Morehouse and the city of Atlanta.
And you want what specifically with him? You want a dialogue with him?
Absolutely.
We feel that we have no business intervening in this situation, a situation where we have no authority and no leverage to change federal policy.
But just before noon today, wheelchair advocates abandoned the administrative offices here at Morehouse College, saying that they had gotten what they wanted, a letter of support from the Morehouse School of Medicine for their cause. Many of these ADAPT members are from out of state, out of town, Boston, Texas. Sean Lavelle is from Los Angeles.
We accomplished letting people realize that we are human and we have rights to live normal lives just like any others.
ADAPT members staged these protests to gain media coverage, but they insist it is not limited to that.
Oh, I think it's much broader than media coverage. I mean, our job is to change the hearts and minds of America. And you know, the media is one tool to do that, but...
ADAPT protests today were aimed at freeing federal money for non-nursing home health care, allowing the handicapped to live more independent lives.
News at 5.
A parade of wheelchairs in downtown Atlanta marked the third straight day of protests. The demonstrators are claiming that 250,000 disabled Americans are being held against their wills in nursing homes. The activists are now at the Richard Russell Federal Building, blocking entrances and chaining themselves to doors. They've been there since mid-morning with signs and slogans. The protesters are demanding more money be spent on more health care and less on nursing home care.
People are choosing to die because Dr. Sullivan and the Health and Human Services will not redirect the nursing home money because of the corporate nursing home lobby.
I changed myself to this door to symbolize what it feels like to be in a convalescent home with no way out. They lock you in, they lock you up, and they drug you up so that you have no rights at all.
Disabled protesters say while they were snubbed by Health and Human Services Secretary Dr. Lewis Sullivan, they did succeed in raising awareness. The group wants at least 25% of Medicaid's $17.5 billion budget to go to a national attendant services program. Hundreds of disabled activists blocked the doors of the Richard Russell Federal Building in their third day of protest for a national attendant program to keep them out of nursing homes.
I'd rather be in a jail than a nursing home. The urine smell alone will make you sick.
The activists from the group ADAPT, Americans Disabled for Attendant Programs Today, chained themselves to the doors. It took police about 1 hour to get these chairs apart. 2 lock cutters were broken.
You can't block the driveways. Yeah, you can move out right now if you want to. Otherwise, we're going to have to put you under arrest.
The group began their protest Monday at Morehouse College, demanding Health and Human Services Secretary Dr. Lewis Sullivan talk to them. After spending the night in the administration building, the group left and staked out the Georgia Healthcare Association. Organizers told me this was their last day of protesting. They feel they made their point.
Today, history was made. We may have not brought Secretary Sullivan in, but today, disabled people were arrested for the first time by the federal government simply for advocating for equal treatment.
Dozens of the protesters were taken to the Fulton County Stadium parking lot, where a magistrate charged them for blocking the doors of the federal building.
I'm going to set a hearing on this for November the 16th at 9:30 in the United States Courthouse, the Richard Russell Building.
The group held a similar protest last year at the federal building where they were also arrested.